Now I could make an hours-long video going over the entire situation, breaking down every comment, Twitter interaction, video, and so forth, but it's not worth it. In fact, it's barely worth it to even make this video, but Vincent has decided to provoke me again, and I intend on putting this whole situation in the ground permanently this time. Starting off with a bit of background information, Vincent Martin is a small-time YouTuber who spends a great deal of time inflicting himself upon other people. I can't tell if he's simply a dishonest person, or if he has an IQ below freezing temperature, or even if it's both. But there's a clear pattern of behavior at this point that is impossible to ignore, and that is his consistent bad faith, dishonest, disingenuous, and antagonistic behavior towards people online that he disagrees with or doesn't like. My first encounter with him was when he found my Fallout 3 videos and started commenting on them. This first interaction really sets the tone of how he's coming into this. To summarize the entire interaction, he starts off with a criticism that I was wrong about something, that the skill book Amada gives you should be based off of your tag skills, but you haven't chosen your tag skills yet. I point out that he wasn't paying attention to the video, because the scenario I explained in the video was that it would have been better if you had chosen your tag skills first, so the skill book she gives you would have a higher chance of being useful to you, rather than for a skill many people are never going to use. He responds saying that it was poorly worded, but that he did miss it. This is the closest you will see him concede to anything in this entire year-long shit show. I get the exact quote from my script saying that, yeah, it is clearly stated. He responds again giving an example how I should have said it, so there would be no way to confuse what I was saying. But the problem is that what I was saying was already simple and straightforward. I respond pretty much saying as much. That sounds like a you problem to me. His next comment is slightly antagonistic, accusing me of being defensive, when not only was his criticism wrong, to the point he was forced to sort of concede, but he didn't just drop it and admit he was wrong, he was still trying to pull some kind of win out of this, then saying he hopes I won't freak out if he adds more criticism, smiley face. So in short, he made a criticism, got it embarrassingly wrong, couldn't simply admit his mistake, and kept pushing, then basically said he was going to do more of the same. He then went on to do more of the same. It was an extensive back and forth with him frequently making bad, disingenuous arguments, eventually comparing me to Vosh, because I wouldn't submit to his shit arguments. He eventually made 3 videos on me that was again more of the same. And finally, we've had several Twitter interactions where every time, he just acts like a dishonest, bad-faith piece of shit. He has also complained about me on various forums across the internet, including Reddit, and various Discord servers, and who knows where else. Now, I had noticed a pattern in how he responds. If you ever start to get close to nailing him on any point he's made that he's wrong about, he will always try to distract and deflect. For example, in one of his tweets he posted a lame-ass meme saying that the point was to say that he's not the only one to not like my videos. As if that is news to me. Here's my response. Vincent, honest question, how fucking retreaded are you? You realize that doesn't actually prove anything, right? First of all, anyone who gets even moderately big on the internet will have people who dislike or hate them, whether for legitimate reasons or not. You're a fan of Mahler. Look at how many people talk shit about him in his videos. Is that now proof that he's somehow not good? Secondly, I'm critical of a popular video by a popular YouTuber defending a popular game made by a popular company. It is inevitable that I'm going to get people who are going to hate me and my content purely because I've said something they don't like about something they do like, regardless of how true or accurate it may or may not be. Essentially, by posting these gay-ass cringe memes, you've proven nothing, except that people have made gay-ass cringe memes about me. Shock horror, how will I ever recover? It is abundantly clear you are not cut out for these kinds of discussions in the slightest. You're either incredibly stupid or incredibly dishonest, or both, and based on all the shit I've had to deal with from you, I'd say it's both. You really need to learn to accept an L, because for the past year you've done nothing but build a collection of L's from trying to come at me. My main point is how anyone even somewhat big gets criticism, and you are guaranteed to receive criticism, be it legitimate or not, when you're critical of something that is beloved. Will he address this argument, or will he jump for a chance to avoid having to realize what he said was fucking stupid? Naturally, he avoids having to deal with the actual argument. My honest question in that tweet was clearly just an insult and nothing more, yet he latches onto it with a goddamn death grip to avoid actually having to respond to the substance of what I said, because he can't reconcile that what he said was stupid and can equally be applied to the people he likes. In fact, it could be applied to pretty much anyone decently big on the internet. Find me a video talking about a subject, and I'll find you someone who disagrees with it and thinks it's a joke. Now back in November of 2022, I was slandered by a much larger YouTuber, pretty much at random. I won't go into that situation since it's been resolved, but at the time another YouTuber, Brother Near, reached out to me to talk about my side of the story and help get word out that this had happened. It was after this that Vincent Martin started taking an interest in Brother Near, and by interest I mean harassment. Vincent spent months going after this guy using the same dishonest, disingenuous tactics he always does. He likes to start shit, he likes to provoke people, and he doesn't seem to ever concede on any point, while at the same time making shit fallacious arguments constantly, and projecting all of his bullshit onto whoever he's currently targeting. Now there's a great many things I can highlight in this whole situation that would speak to Vincent's character, but there are only two I will refer to. First of all, Vincent used the suicidal breakdown Near had a few years ago as an own against him on Twitter. I don't even need to elaborate on why that's fucked up. It's just beyond scummy and dirty to do this, and speaks to what a piece of shit he is as a person. Secondly, when referring to the first time I talked with Near, Vincent had referred to it as near white knighting for me. Remember, this is the time I was actually slandered. Needless to say, that wasn't white knighting. Unfortunately, this is the one thing I don't have an image of to back it up, since the tweet that had it originally was deleted, but I do have my response to it still from way back when. Now so far, I think these examples prove fairly well that Vincent just is not a good person to have a discussion with, and he's kind of a piece of shit. However, I do have a couple examples that prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that he's absolutely bad faith and shouldn't be dealt with at all. First off is when he removed context from something I had said in his video. So his first response to me was a mess through and through. He frequently used fallacies while accusing me of using them ad nauseum, and most of the arguments were just fucking shit. I did a full response to this video with my friends. Now again, there's plenty of examples I could point at, but one of the biggest is this particular clip. The defenses for this particular point in the comments have been nothing short of absurd. Some people have claimed it doesn't matter, which isn't even an argument. Some people have claimed that the plants are totally alive, they just don't look like it, which isn't even worthy of response. And one guy pointed out that there's 3 living flowers in Arlington Cemetery, which I didn't even bother to confirm.
I really don't know how Creed can be so smug when dealing with the evidence that can be found right there in the game world to support the fact that the plants are alive in Fallout 3.
He's acting smug, like he just found some kind of epic own against me, that I don't listen to criticism or whatever. But he also cut out key context in order to make me look bad. He cut it in a way to make it look like I was dismissing someone out of hand. Here's the full context. And one guy pointed out that there's 3 living flowers in Arlington Cemetery, which I didn't even bother to confirm, because even if he was right, they're 3 fucking flowers, and not anything anyone could sustain themselves on. A guy in the comments was arguing against the point that there's no plant life in the Capital Wasteland, and his counter-argument was that there are 3 flowers in Arlington Cemetery. Keep in mind, the context of the discussion is wildlife being able to survive off of naturally growing plants, and, as I correctly say in the video, 3 flowers means jack shit when you're talking about an ecosystem that cannot support life, due to a lack of plant life. What I had said originally made perfect sense, and Vincent had to cut context in order to make it look like I'm just pointlessly dismissive of people, in order to make me look bad. This is definitive proof of how he acts in bad faith. But it gets even worse. One of the arguments early on was about rain in these games. Fallout 3 does not portray rain. When criticizing Fallout 3, the game itself is a primary source. In fact, it is the highest source, because what matters is what is in the game. No rain means no plants. No plants mean all the animals are dead. To refute my point of there being no rain in Fallout 3, Vincent's response is to say that there's no proof that it never rains, the game just doesn't show it, because of limitations of the game engine. He further says that if I can find a source that says it never rains in the Capital Wasteland, that he could verify, then he'd concede. In other words, he invented the idea out of thin air that it's a limitation of the game engine. He had no source for this argument, he just made it up to dismiss my criticism, then demanded proof from me for him to concede on this point, when remember, my source is the game itself. He's literally just making shit up to get rid of criticism he doesn't like, and demands proof to back down. He doesn't need to prove his claims, he could just say whatever the fuck he wants with no evidence, but demands it in turn to back down. If this isn't peak disingenuous bad faith behavior, then I don't know what is. But that's not the best part. See, I mentioned earlier that I noticed a pattern of behavior, how he will always distract and deflect if you've got him on anything, how he tries to avoid ever addressing something he fucked up on. This is someone who doesn't like to be wrong, and I've never seen him concede on a point, aside from that one mentioned earlier, which wasn't even fully conceding. So I decided to test a theory. He took issue with me calling him disingenuous, so I gave proof of it, using this lack of rain example, and, well, it led to an interesting exchange, in which I give him enough rope to hang himself. His first response is that I keep bringing up this argument, as it is one I've pointed at before. He points out he hasn't made this argument since. He then goes on the attack, that I remade my videos because of weak arguments, then tries to claim a double standard. I'll be honest, it's hard to decipher some of what he says, since he's terrible at English. But notice something missing here. Then I explain explicitly that the point is in what he did, not in the argument itself. This was also a very big tweet where I brought up a bunch of other points against him, and again, he doesn't address the key issue here. He runs to anything else he can. He claims my friend lied as a deflection. He claims I did a soapbox speech, which... no, I didn't. But again, he points at this to deflect from the core issue. He also responds in a direct comment, where he addresses the rain issue in particular, and uses a particularly bad argument that it wouldn't have fit the setting. That is not a defense, it's additional proof that the game is poorly written. So again, he is ignoring the core issue outright. I call him out for this, that he will not address that he made up the argument whole cloth, and that is disingenuous. He then attempts an appeal to ridicule fallacy. This is where you act like someone else's argument is a joke or ridiculous, in order to dismiss it and not address it. He then insults me by calling me autistic. He then does whataboutism with New Vegas, again desperately trying to draw attention away from the key issue, and insults me again by calling me petty. There's a pattern here now, and it is the absolute rock-headed refusal to address the fact that making shit up out of thin air to win an argument is disingenuous. This exact kind of thing continues for a while too. Whataboutism and bringing up the other Fallout games, still not addressing the point. More insults and projection, not addressing the point. Accusing me of not having consistent standards, which is hilarious coming from him of all people, while also not addressing the point. Calling me obsessed with the one comment, not addressing the point. Putting words in my mouth and accusing me of a double standard, not addressing the point. Continuing to argue about rain in New Vegas, not addressing the key point. Time after time after time after time after time. It's the same shit from him. every time, he tries to dodge and deflect and distract and talk about literally anything else but the key issue here, resorting to mockery to try and get me to drop it, attacking my friends to distract me from it, engaging with the Rain argument, and making accusations against me constantly to avoid ever having to properly address that he made shit up purely so he could dismiss an argument that he didn't like. He finally almost kinda sorta touches on it, but not really. Finally, after literal hours upon hours of grilling his ass for his dishonest bullshit, he sheepishly comes back with this response, where he rewrites history as if he didn't state it as a fact and demanded proof in order to concede on the point. He's saying that it's not in the code, but that doesn't mean it's not in the lore. Then another insult, then more deflection, an accusation against my friend to distract from the fact that he still hasn't properly addressed that he just made shit up because it was convenient to him in order to win an argument. Again, just to make it clear, if it were in the lore but not in the game, that is still a dire issue for the world building. The game is the primary source. That is what matters. Some lore book somewhere saying the Capital Wasteland has rain doesn't solve what is portrayed in the game. Worse, if it did rain in the Capital Wasteland, that would do a lot to undermine the whole water crisis plot the main story is all about. So even if we assume Vincent is right and it is stated within the lore that the Capital Wasteland gets rain, that would still be an issue. I push him a little bit more and naturally it's more of the same. Insults, deflection, projection, claiming he explained himself, and so on and so forth. He also tries to downplay that particular issue now, as if I've been obsessing over it, when I've simply just not let him weasel out of it. I was grilling him all day on this issue, because someone inventing shit to win an argument is so inherently bad faith that there is no way for him to win this one. Either he addresses it, and admits what he did there was disingenuous, or alternatively, there's what we actually got, where he avoids it like the goddamn plague, knowing that this kind of thing is massively damaging to one's credibility. These are just a few of a great many examples of him being a bad-faith, disingenuous actor who will seize any opportunity to start shit with someone and spew any dishonest bullshit argument he can muster and never concede. All the while accusing you of doing everything he is ad nauseum. The name of the game is tearing down people and their work, and there are no rules. At least, not for him. He will hold you to standards he doesn't hold himself to. He will mock, insult, belittle, deflect, project, lie, use fallacious arguments, gaslight, and even use your darkest moments against you as a Twitterone. And he will absolutely cry about it if you insult him. Did I mention the projection? Because he does it pretty much non-stop. If you disagree with his criticism, then you can't take criticism, when he will never concede on a point and will dismiss any criticism against him. He can make shit up whole cloth, but calls other people disingenuous. He will fuck up his criticism and turn it around to you being overly defensive. He will accuse you of deflecting after spending the entire day deflecting. This is a man with no fucking integrity, and he is either a complete mental case, or one of the most disingenuous people on the internet. And most of all, he is not worth dealing with in the slightest, because he will never back down. At best, he will start accusing you of doing all the shit he's doing, and at worst, he just starts spewing insults, and he will never address the substance of the argument if he's wrong, or if he thinks it will make him look bad. Now, considering this shit show's been going on for well over a year at this point, through numerous comments on YouTube, his shitty videos, and numerous extremely unpleasant interactions on Twitter, I'm fucking done. I've given this dishonest piece of shit far more attention than he's ever deserved, and I'm just not going to waste any more time on him again. He does not have an honest bone in his body, and based on my many numerous interactions with him, he will never engage in good faith, because he doesn't care about the facts. Don't waste any time on him. It is not worth it, because trying to talk to him is like talking to a wall, with the only difference being that the wall might actually listen. Vincent will probably make a shit video responding to this, and he'll use the same dishonest tactics he always does. There is no point in ever responding to him, because the point of a response is to have a conversation, and you just can't have a conversation of any meaning when dealing with someone as bad faith as Vincent is, where he'd rather spend an entire day avoiding responsibility for his own words than ever having an honest discussion. Oh, and to Vincent directly, who feels entitled to my time, this is exactly why I won't debate you. I had your number from the start. I knew any debate with you would turn out exactly as this interaction on Twitter did, where you would only ever run from any strong point against you, and you would do everything in your power to try to distract from it, to prevent you from ever having to concede or admit wrongdoing.